Pacific Southwest Airways Flight 182, traffic 12 o'clock, 1 mile, northbound. We're looking. PSA 182, Cessna traffic 12 o'clock, 1 mile. I think he's passed off to our right. Those were among the final radio transmissions before one of the most devastating mid-air collisions in aviation history would claim 144 lives and forever change how aircraft navigate crowded skies. On a crystal-clear September morning in 1978, the blue skies above San Diego would become the stage for an unthinkable tragedy that unfolded in mere seconds. Yet its impact would resonate through decades of aviation safety protocols and regulations. The morning of September 25, 1978, dawned perfect for flying across Southern California. Not a single cloud marred the brilliant azure canvas stretching endlessly above San Diego, with visibility extending for miles in every direction. The Pacific Ocean sparkled like scattered diamonds beyond the coastline, while the sprawling metropolitan area below bustled with the rhythm of another busy weekday. At San Diego International Airport, also known as Lindbergh Field, the familiar sounds of commercial aviation filled the air as jets powered up their engines and ground crews methodically prepared aircraft for departure. Among them, Pacific Southwest Airlines Flight 182, a Boeing 727-214 with registration number November 533. Papa Sierra sat gleaming on the tarmac like a silver bird eager to take flight. Pacific Southwest Airlines, affectionately known as PSA, had built its reputation as California's hometown airline, connecting cities up and down the Golden State with a warmth and friendliness that set it apart from larger, more impersonal carriers. The airline's distinctive orange and red livery, featuring a bright smile painted on the nose of each aircraft, had become an iconic symbol of West Coast aviation culture. PSA prided itself on creating a relaxed, almost family-like atmosphere aboard its flights, where flight attendants were encouraged to inject humor and personality into their safety demonstrations and passenger interactions. This wasn't just an airline, it was a California institution that understood the laid-back spirit of its passengers while maintaining the highest standards of professional aviation service. Captain James McFerrin, a seasoned aviator with over 17,000 flight hours under his belt, conducted his pre-flight inspection with the methodical precision that had kept him safe throughout his distinguished career. At 42 years old, McFerrin represented the best of commercial aviation, a pilot who combined extensive experience with unwavering attention to detail and an infectious enthusiasm for flying that inspired confidence in both his crew and passengers. His logbook told the story of thousands of safe flights, countless takeoffs and landings, and a perfect safety record that spoke volumes about his skill and professionalism. First Officer Robert Fox, equally experienced with over 10,000 flight hours, worked alongside McFerrin with the seamless coordination that comes from years of partnership in the cockpit. Together, they represented decades of combined aviation expertise, two professionals at the peak of their careers who understood that every flight, no matter how routine, demanded their complete focus and attention. Flight engineer Martin Vaughna rounded out the three-person cockpit crew, his responsibilities encompassing the complex mechanical and electrical systems that kept the Boeing 727 operating safely and efficiently. The 727, known throughout the industry for its reliability and versatility, was perfectly suited for PSA's short to medium-haul routes along the California coast. This particular aircraft had logged thousands of flight hours since rolling off the Boeing production line, carrying hundreds of thousands of passengers safely to their destinations without a single major incident. The morning's passenger manifest showed 128 souls aboard Flight 182, each with their own story, their own reasons for traveling north to Los Angeles on this beautiful September morning. Among the passengers settling into their seats were business travelers, heading to meetings in downtown Los Angeles, families visiting relatives, students returning to universities, and tourists eager to explore the entertainment capital of the world. The cabin buzzed with the familiar pre-departure energy as passengers stowed their carry-on luggage, adjusted their seatbelts, and prepared for what they expected would be a routine 45-minute flight up the coast. Flight attendants moved efficiently through the aisles, offering assistance with seating and ensuring everyone was comfortable before takeoff. The atmosphere was relaxed and cheerful, embodying the spirit that made PSA flights feel more like traveling with friends than on a commercial airliner. At 8:34 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, Flight 182 received clearance for takeoff from San Diego International Airport's runway 27, pointing the aircraft's nose toward the northwest as it began its journey into the morning sky. The Boeing 727's three Pratt & Whitney engines spooled up to full power, their combined thrust of over 45,000 pounds, pushing the aircraft down the runway with increasing speed until the moment of rotation when the nose wheel lifted off the concrete and Flight 182 became airborne. The takeoff was textbook perfect, smooth and controlled as the aircraft climbed steadily through the clear morning air above San Diego Bay. Passengers pressed their faces to the windows, taking in the spectacular view of the harbor, the downtown skyline, and the Pacific Ocean stretching endlessly toward the horizon. Meanwhile, several miles northeast of the airport, a different aircraft was conducting training flights in the practice area designated for flight instruction. Cessna November 7711. Golf, a small single-engine aircraft, was being piloted by David Boswell, a 35-year-old flight instructor with extensive experience teaching students the fundamentals of aviation. His student that morning was Martin Casey Jr., working toward his instrument rating certification, a crucial step in advancing his piloting skills. The Cessna 172, one of the most popular training aircraft ever built, was perfectly suited for this type of instruction, its forgiving flight characteristics and excellent visibility making it ideal for learning complex aviation procedures. Boswell and Casey had been practicing instrument approaches and radio navigation procedures, using the morning's perfect weather conditions to hone skills that would prove invaluable when flying in less favorable circumstances.
The training flight was proceeding normally, with Boswell providing patient instruction while Casey practiced the precise techniques required for instrument flight operations. Neither pilot could have imagined that their routine training session was about to intersect with commercial aviation in the most tragic way possible. Air traffic control at San Diego Approach was monitoring both aircraft as they operated in the increasingly congested airspace surrounding Lindbergh Field.
The approach control facility was responsible for coordinating the safe separation of all aircraft flying within their jurisdiction, from large commercial jets like Flight 182 to small training aircraft like the Cessna. This complex choreography required constant vigilance, precise communication, and split-second decision-making to ensure that multiple aircraft could share the same airspace without conflict. The controllers on duty that morning were experienced professionals who understood the critical importance of maintaining positive control over every aircraft under their supervision. Flight 182 was following a standard departure procedure, climbing through the morning sky while gradually turning toward its assigned heading for Los Angeles International Airport. The crew was in contact with San Diego Approach Control, receiving vectors and altitude assignments that would guide them safely through the congested Southern California airspace. Captain McFerrin and First Officer Fox worked with practiced efficiency, monitoring their instruments, communicating with air traffic control, and ensuring that their aircraft was operating exactly as prescribed by federal aviation regulations and company procedures. At 9 a.m., San Diego Approach Control issued a routine traffic advisory to Flight 182, informing the crew about the presence of other aircraft in their vicinity. Pacific Southwest Airways Flight 182, traffic 12 o'clock, 1 mile northbound, came the calm, professional voice of the air traffic controller. This type of communication was standard procedure, designed to enhance situational awareness by alerting pilots to nearby aircraft that might not be immediately visible. The PSA crew acknowledged the transmission with a simple, "We're looking," indicating they were scanning the sky ahead for visual contact with the reported traffic. The Cessna, meanwhile, was completing its training maneuvers and preparing to return to Montgomery Field, a smaller airport located northeast of downtown San Diego that served as a hub for general aviation and flight training activities. Both aircraft were operating under visual flight rules, which meant the pilots were responsible for seeing and avoiding other aircraft while following air traffic control instructions. This system of shared responsibility had worked effectively for decades, but it depended on clear visibility, alert pilots, and sufficient time to recognize and react to potential conflicts. As Flight 182 continued its climb through 2,600 feet, the crew received another traffic advisory from Approach Control. PSA 182, Cessna traffic 12 o'clock, 1 mile, the controller repeated, his voice maintaining the calm professionalism that characterized air traffic communications. The PSA crew responded again, acknowledging the traffic call while continuing to search the sky ahead for visual contact with the small aircraft. Unknown to anyone at that moment, the Cessna was positioned almost directly ahead of Flight 182, but at a slightly lower altitude that placed it in the jet's forward blind spot, where the aircraft's nose and cockpit structure obscured the pilot's view. The Boeing 727's configuration created a significant blind spot directly ahead and below the cockpit, an aerodynamic reality that all commercial pilots understood and compensated for through proper scanning techniques and reliance on air traffic control for separation services. Similarly, the Cessna's high wing design created areas where the pilot's view of surrounding airspace was partially obscured, particularly during certain phases of flight. Both aircraft were operating normally and legally, following established procedures and maintaining communication with air traffic control, yet the geometric realities of their respective positions were creating a potentially dangerous situation that was developing faster than anyone realized. At 9:01 a.m. and 47 seconds, the controller issued a final traffic advisory to Flight 182. PSA 182, Cessna traffic 12 o'clock 1 mile, he transmitted, his voice still calm and routine, unaware that the separation between the two aircraft was rapidly decreasing. The PSA crew acknowledged this transmission with what would prove to be tragically prophetic words. "I think he's passed off to our right." This statement indicated that the airline crew believed they had visual contact with the Cessna and that the small aircraft was safely clear of their flight path. The final seconds before impact unfolded with terrifying speed as both aircraft continued on their respective courses, neither crew fully aware of the other's precise position or intentions. The physics of flight meant that the Boeing 727, with its significantly higher speed, was rapidly overtaking the slower Cessna, while the geometry of their relative positions kept each aircraft hidden from the other's view until the very last moment. Air traffic control continued monitoring both flights, unaware that their routine traffic advisories were about to become inadequate to prevent the unthinkable. At exactly 9:01 a.m. and 51 seconds Pacific Daylight Time, Pacific Southwest Airlines Flight 182 collided with Cessna November 7711, Gulf approximately 2,600 feet above the North Park neighborhood of San Diego. The collision occurred with such sudden violence that neither crew had time to react or attempt evasive maneuvers. The much larger and heavier Boeing 727, weighing approximately 70 tons, struck the significantly smaller Cessna, which weighed less than 1 ton, in an impact that instantly destroyed the smaller aircraft and catastrophically damaged the commercial airliner. The collision tore through the Cessna like a thunderbolt, completely destroying the small aircraft and killing both instructor David Boswell and student Martin Casey Jr. instantly. The impact point was just forward of the 727's right wing, where the enormous force of the collision sent debris exploding in all directions while critically damaging the commercial aircraft's control surfaces and hydraulic systems. The Boeing 727's right wing sustained massive structural damage, compromising the aircraft's ability to maintain controlled flight, while simultaneously creating a catastrophic fire that began consuming the wing's fuel tanks. Inside Flight 182's cockpit, the crew experienced a nightmare scenario that no amount of training could have fully prepared them for, as warning lights illuminated across their instrument panels, and the aircraft began behaving in ways that defied their attempts at control. Captain McFerrin immediately recognized the severity of their situation, keying his microphone to transmit the most dreaded words in aviation. "Tower, we're going down. This is PSA." The professionalism in his voice remained intact, even as his aircraft began its final uncontrollable descent toward the neighborhoods below. The damaged Boeing 727 entered a steep right bank, its compromised control systems unable to respond to the crew's desperate attempts to level the aircraft and maintain flight. Fire spread rapidly along the right wing as fuel from damaged tanks fed the growing inferno, creating a scene of absolute terror for the 128 passengers and crew members trapped aboard the plummeting aircraft. The laws of physics had taken control, and despite the crew's heroic efforts to regain command of their aircraft, Flight 182 was doomed to impact the ground in less than 20 seconds from the moment of collision. Witnesses throughout the North Park neighborhood looked up in horror as the burning commercial airliner passed overhead, its engines screaming and its structure clearly compromised as it descended at an increasingly steep angle. The sight of a large passenger jet in obvious distress flying low over residential areas created scenes of panic and disbelief as people realized they were witnessing an unfolding aviation disaster of unprecedented proportions. Some residents had just enough time to run from their homes before the inevitable impact, while others were trapped by the speed of events unfolding above them. Flight 182 impacted the ground at approximately 300 miles per hour in the 3200 block of Dwight Street in North Park, creating a massive fireball that consumed several homes and killed 7 residents on the ground who had no warning of the approaching disaster. The impact crater extended deep into the earth as the aircraft's tremendous kinetic energy was released in a devastating explosion that could be felt for miles around. The beautiful September morning had been transformed in seconds into a scene from hell, with burning wreckage scattered across multiple city blocks and emergency responders racing toward the disaster site from throughout the metropolitan area. All 135 people aboard Flight 182, including the 128 passengers and 7 crew members, perished instantly upon impact. Their lives ended in a tragedy that struck without warning on what should have been a routine flight between 2 California cities. The 2 occupants of the Cessna also died in the mid-air collision, bringing the total death toll to 137 aviation fatalities, making this disaster one of the deadliest aviation accidents in California history and the deadliest aircraft accident in the United States at that time. The immediate aftermath of the crash created a response effort unlike anything San Diego had ever experienced, as firefighters, police officers, paramedics, and emergency personnel converged on the disaster scene to battle the massive fires consuming multiple residential structures and search for any possible survivors. The intense heat from burning aviation fuel made initial rescue efforts extremely dangerous, while the widespread distribution of wreckage across the neighborhood complicated search and recovery operations that would continue for days. News of the disaster spread rapidly throughout San Diego and across the nation, as television and radio stations interrupted regular programming to report on the unfolding tragedy. The sight of a commercial airliner crashing in a residential neighborhood captured the attention of the entire country, reminding everyone of aviation's inherent risks and the potential for catastrophic consequences when safety systems fail. Families of passengers aboard Flight 182 gathered at Los Angeles International Airport, waiting desperately for information about their loved ones, while hoping against hope for news that would never come. The National Transportation Safety Board launched an immediate investigation into the causes of the collision, deploying teams of experts to examine wreckage, interview witnesses, analyze radar data, and reconstruct the sequence of events that led to this preventable tragedy. The investigation would ultimately reveal that the collision resulted from a breakdown in the sea and avoid system that relied on pilots maintaining visual separation from other aircraft while operating under visual flight rules in controlled airspace. The NTSB's final report identified several contributing factors to the accident, including the air traffic control system's reliance on visual separation, the inherent blind spots created by both aircraft's designs, and the challenges of maintaining situational awareness in increasingly congested airspace. The investigation revealed that neither crew was able to see the other aircraft until the final moments before impact, despite receiving traffic advisories from air traffic control that should have helped them maintain visual separation. This tragedy led to significant changes in aviation safety protocols and air traffic control procedures, including the development of improved radar systems, enhanced pilot training programs focusing on collision avoidance, and the eventual implementation of traffic collision avoidance systems aboard commercial aircraft. The lessons learned from Flight 182's final moments would help prevent similar tragedies in the future, ensuring that the lives lost on that September morning would not be in vain. The families of those killed in the disaster faced the unimaginable task of grieving their loved ones while working to understand how such a tragedy could occur in the supposedly safe world of commercial aviation. Their pain and loss served as a constant reminder to aviation professionals that every flight carries precious cargo in the form of human lives, and that the responsibility of ensuring safe operations extends to every person involved in the aviation system, from pilots and controllers to mechanics and regulators. Today, nearly 5 decades after Flight 182's final moments, the memory of those lost continues to influence aviation safety practices and reminds us that the freedom of flight comes with enormous responsibilities. Modern aircraft are equipped with sophisticated collision avoidance systems that would likely have prevented this tragedy, while air traffic control systems provide enhanced surveillance and separation services that reduce the reliance on visual detection of conflicting traffic. The skies above San Diego are safer today because of the lessons learned from this devastating accident. If this story of Flight 182 has moved you or taught you something new about aviation safety, please consider subscribing to our channel, where we continue exploring the history of aviation disasters and the ongoing efforts to make flying safer for everyone. Your support helps us bring these important stories to light, while honoring the memory of those whose lives were lost in the pursuit of safer skies. Take a moment to like this video and share it with others who might benefit from understanding how aviation safety continues to evolve through the lessons of tragedy, transformed into hope for the future.